Hi, I'm Michael Patterson from Eye Centers of Tennessee. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thank you for coming today. You're going to learn through these videos surgical techniques and innovative technologies that you and your staff will be able to utilize to further patient care. Remember at the end of the video to subscribe down here at the bottom so that you can find further content in the future.
Hello, this is Michael Patterson from Eye Centers of Tennessee. This is just a small pupil phaco and how I perform these cases. I wanted you to see a case I do. I always do a double diamond technique with a dull diamond side port where you can't have any second instrument needed. And this is just the typical way I do things. I use a cohesive viscoelastic here to help with a little pupil dilation. Then just use the cystotome in the border of the pupil to guide your rhexis. And what you'll see here is I'm just slowly doing this one tear at a time. But if you watch and check the centripetal forces that you're putting on the capsular rhexis, it's quite easy to go ahead and make one. Once I do that, I always hydro dissect and then hydro delineate just a little bit, and then you'll see the lens just spin completely. I want to make sure in small pupil cases it's imperative that the lens spins. You want it completely freely mobile because otherwise you're not going to be able to see. And what I use is just a straight horizontal chop with the phaco tip completely buried in. I put the chopper out in a normal chop and you'll see just a good separation of the nucleus, and then we'll spin the lens just a little bit to make sure we can grab a heminucleus. And then once we get the heminucleus, we'll then try to rotate and chop just a quadrant out of the capsular bag. I like to take just one quadrant at a time. You'll notice the phaco needle is directly in the center of the pupil. It's imperative that you do that. And sometimes you'll get a small pupil grab, but if you're careful and just don't phaco that pupil, you'll see that it's nice and round still with no hemorrhage and obviously less disruption than placing a Malyugin ring or any sort of device that's constantly pushing on the pupil with areas of tension as well as areas that can crimp the pupil. These pupils, if you'll try not to touch them, will continue to dilate as well as constrict post-surgically, and therefore won't have the irregular pupil that you often see with people that have pupil expansion devices. You can see here, I'll just go ahead and crack that last piece. And again, the key here is the phaco tip does not need to reach towards the iris. You simply, with a Stellaris machine, you have Venturi-based system, and the pieces will come to you, and just gently guide them through the pupil with the chopper and the phaco. And slow phaco, there's no reason to get in a hurry here. You don't have any reason to be slamming on the phaco pedal at this time. Just a very slow Phaco-Emulsification. And you'll see here, I saw a piece go up under the iris, and so I'll use my chopper just to kind of hold it. And then I'll gently use some phaco just to grab that little piece and get some vacuum in and just gently pull that back into the phaco tip. Once you've done that, you've pretty much conquered what your biggest fear is. I usually turn the fluid off at this point so that when I take the phaco tip out, the iris doesn't try to come with it. Typically these eyes are very floppy, and as you can see in this case, that was also the case. Take the eye tip underneath the iris, and you'll see here just removing the rest of the cortical remnants that I can see. And I'd like to make a full 360 sweep a couple of times just to make certain that I've got it all. And you'll see there I cut the fluid off just before I come out so that the iris won't come out of the eye. That's a trick that my program director Bethany Markowitz taught me to make sure the fluid's completely off. Just decompresses the eye, that way the iris won't come chasing out when you pull the tip out. You'll see the Li61AO injector ejects it directly in the bag. In this case, a little bit of the pupil prolapses, but not too bad considering the severity of how small this pupil is. I still always go under the implant no matter what the case is at all times, just to remove the remaining viscoelastic. And you'll see here that obviously the iris, no matter what you do, whether you put a pupil expansion device in or not, will often try to come to the irrigation aspiration handpiece. You see a perfectly round pupil at the end of the case. I'm just going to hydrate my wounds, and I'll put a little bit of an antibiotic and a clear steroid inside the eye just so that the eye is nice and firm with the wet cell, and that's it. Thanks for watching.